Everyone, my name is Nzelu Tankabini and welcome to my YouTube channel. On this channel, I give you insight on what it's like to be homeless, surviving the streets, and also how to rehabilitate oneself once you have left the streets. So for today, I will not be focusing on a specific question regarding being homeless, but I would like to give you a story time regarding my first year as a university student and me finding a place to rent. So, a little bit of background. I grew up in a small village in KwaZulu Natal, and within this village, you could literally count all the people within 1 hour because there was only 200 people within that village. Well, there's more now. And I'd say I had a pretty normal life. I grew up there, but I attended school in town, and I later finished my high school in a township. So I went to a township in order to attend high school, and it was a pretty normal life. I didn't do any herding, like herding cattle, herding sheep, goats, whatsoever. No, I didn't do that because there was no livestock at home. The only thing we had was chickens, and yeah. However, we did practice substance farming. So basically, you grow fruits and vegetables here at the yard or in the yard. And it was a great time. I remember when I was still doing grade 12, I was so excited to go to university. It was during the times when Generations was so interesting to watch, and like now, and that's my opinion. It was during the times when you had characters like Jason and Senzo, and you would catch the omnibus on Saturdays at 10 o'clock after watching your TV. You'd be afraid to watch Generations because you might see Senzo and Jason kissing. However, it was that show or that drama or series or soapy that introduced me to the world before I left my small village, because I got to learn that there are different human beings in the world besides straight black people, unlike what you see in the village. I won't say township because there were gay people in the township where I went to high school or where I attended high school. However, in the small village, it was non existent to see any gender or sexual diversity. So it was those shows that introduced me to the world without leaving my small village. Okay, fast forward to university. I applied in September. That's when you still had to apply through CAO manually. I filled in the forms, I applied, and then I got a response that yes, I had been accepted, but I did not get residence or financial aid. Yes, the horror. And so I then had to now go to Pinetown because I had gotten accepted at UKZN Edgewood campus, and I had to go now look for a place to rent whilst also figuring out how I will pay my university fees. So I went to go look for a place to rent in January 2011. That's when I did my first year. I went to go look for a place to rent. I went to the local petrol garages in Pinetown, asked around, and they directed me to this house that people were renting in or at. And I found a lady there. She was in her mid 30s or early 40s. Yeah, mid 30s or early 40s. She had one daughter, and she said she is looking for someone to rent. However, she only wants a student that's a first year student. She was very specific in terms of what she wanted, and she was willing to rent a room within the space that she was renting. So basically, she was renting a, what can I call this? She was renting a unit that had 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, and a sitting room or a living area where you put couches and the TV. So she wanted to make extra cash, so she was willing to rent out the other room. And so the rent was 1,500 rand for that one room. So basically I would share the kitchen and the bathroom with her. And so I agreed. I was like, okay, that's fine. I told my mother, and then she paid the deposit, and then she paid the rent. And so everything was sorted with regards to accommodation. And so I now had to figure out how I was going to pay university fees, because they are not cheap. They were not cheap back then. They are certainly not cheap now. And I rented that room for about 3 months because I experienced problems. I later found out that the main reason why this lady wanted a first year student was so that the student, or so that I would not question her when it comes to all the wrong things that she would do. Like, for instance, she would go out on Saturdays, get drunk, come back in the morning and knock on my window. And then I would have to go open for her because she had lost her key. Number 2, she had mood swings from HELL. Her mood swings would go up and down depending on the day. And it got to a point whereby I couldn't tolerate it anymore. And then I decided, okay, you know what? I can't study and I can't focus on doing assignments because now this lady, her mood swings have gotten worse and worse day by day. And the mood swings actually started when she spent all of my rent money on nonsense that she didn't buy with her own money before I rented that room. Because if you want canisters, I mean, you can buy canisters with your own money. However, if you're not good at saving money, then you will want to rent out a room and then take the whole rent and spend it on just nonsense that you did not need before. Because you actually don't need canisters. I mean, you can pour the cereal from the box. You don't need to put it in canisters. But then, of course, if you want to show off, if you want to make the kitchen look presentable, then of course you will need canisters. And please don't attack me. To all the people that use canisters, don't attack me. This is my opinion. You have your opinion of getting canisters. I have my own opinion. But anyway, moving right along. We started to experience problems. I remember there was a time where I'd go to campus on Saturday just to study. And then when I come back, I open the door and I enter because I had my own key. Then Miss Lady is like, why didn't you knock? I'm like, hey, bro. Why should I knock now? Because I pay rent here. I stay here, boss. Why should I knock first before I enter? I mean, I have a key. That kind of BS. And that's when I decided, it's time for me to look for another place to rent. I also went to student housing, whereby I inquired if there are any student residents available. And I was informed at student residence that I need to wait up until the first semester ends, and then spaces will be available because there are individuals that usually have to repeat one module in their 5th year, and then after that they are done. so spaces will be available after the first semester. I was like, okay, cool, I can wait out till then, but I thought it was better I wait out at another place instead of waiting out with this witch. And so I started to look for a place to rent. I looked around Pinetown. I even printed out posters. I was looking for a place to rent. I went throughout the whole town of Pinetown sticking up these posters. And there are individuals, like within the residential areas of Pinetown, there were individuals that would literally read my post and they'd rip it off the poles within those residential areas. But anyway, I then started to look for a place to rent in other townships. I didn't know any townships in Pinetown that are close to Pinetown, but I started to look for a place to rent in townships near Durban. So I went to Chesterville. I went there, I looked for a place to rent. I found a place to rent, and then I paid the deposit there, and the rent there was 610 rand during that time in Chesterville, and the year was 2011. 610, I'm sure now it's close to 1,000. And so I went back to Pinetown. I was very ecstatic because now I'm sure I'm moving out. I'm finally gonna get time to study. I'm no longer gonna be waking up at 2 a.m. in the morning, opening up for someone who's drunk, who's then gonna complete partying up until 5 a.m. I can now just focus on studies. And I forgot to mention that this young lady would even invite her female friends over to visit her. And now, when there are other female friends, I felt uncomfortable because now they would look at me in a different way. You know, in that way whereby you can tell that this one wants your cucumber. They would look at me in that way, that say, I want to ban your cucumber. And so that's why I decided I really need to move out of here. And so once I'd gotten a place to rent in Chesterville, I decided to wait and complete the whole month over there at the Witch's Den. And then after that, I moved out, and then I headed off to Chesterville. So after the month was completed, I packed my clothes. I then took my kettle as well, because she didn't have a kettle. Before I arrived, she had no kettle. See? I took my kettle and I left and I went to Chesterville. Chesterville is a small township that's near the pavilion. If you are using N3, the freeway N3, it's on the right hand side. You can see it. It's like on the right hand side near the pavilion. So I left and then I went to Chesterville. I started living in Chesterville, and at first I think I was trying to get used to this township, because even though I had attended a high school that was located in a township, this township was very different. Like the atmosphere, I could tell that here I can literally get mugged by my own neighbor. No offense to people that live in Chesterville. No offense. Please don't attack me. But anyway, I realized that the atmosphere is different here. You could tell that there are substances that are sold here. And I know that there was substances sold here because I got offered a substance right after moving into my new place. But anyway, I stayed in that new place for how many months? For 2 months. Yes, I stayed there for 2 months. It had a single bed and nothing else. A single bed and a curtain. Yeah, I stayed there for 2 months, and it was okay up until the other tenants found out that I was a university student, and that's where the problem started. I think there was jealousy, just for the fact that I was a university student, because even if I would greet them, they wouldn't answer back. And then I got tired of greeting, because you get tired of greeting someone that won't respond back. I would greet them, they wouldn't respond back, and they would literally talk about me whilst I was outside hanging my clothes, without directly mentioning my name. But I mean, I could tell with the conversation that these people are talking about me. And another thing was that the biggest problem, I can say, because I can deal with human beings that are jealous, but the main problem was that there were individuals, I guess, within that complex that I was, or that house that I was renting in. There were individuals that were practicing voodoo. Okay, let me not use the American term. Let me use the South African term. There were individuals that were practicing witchcraft. It was either the other tenants, or it was someone within that area that was jealous of the landlord. And this is why I say someone was practicing witchcraft or voodoo. Number one, at night, I would hear something walking on the roof. Literally like walking and scratching on the roof. Number two, I remember this happened maybe 3 or 4 times. I once slept with the window open, and I woke up and my whole head, like this part here, neck and head, was covered in ants. In ants. And only this part of the bed, only this part on the bed, not the whole bed, not even on the floor, only here, in ants. I woke up, I had ants, and then I was like, hey, but where did these ants come from? I had ants all over my face. Then I suspected that maybe it was another tenant, or maybe it's someone that's jealous of their landlord. I did not know. Then I decided to sleep with the window closed. And then I decided to change positions. So my head faced the bottom and my feet were at the top. Basically, my feet were where my head was before. And then the window is closed, and I'm no longer placing my head at the top, I'm placing my head at the bottom. Fine. I sleep, I wake up, my feet are covered in ants again. My feet were covered in ants again. And then when I look on the floor, there are no ants on the floor, there are no ants under the bed. The ants are just on top of the bed, on my feet only. And that's when I also noticed that I am being bewitched. And because I also had a dream as well, whereby I dreamed there were cockroaches climbing all over me. And that's when I noticed that someone is working with the herbs. Someone is using herbs. It's either the other tenants, or it's someone that's jealous of the landlord. And then I decided, I have to move out. I have to move out. And so I went back to student housing again. I went back, I asked, are there any residences available? Then I was informed, yes, there's a residence that has space, and it's in Durban Point in South Beach. If you've been to Durban, I'm sure you know South Beach. Yeah. And I applied for that space that was available. Then I headed to that residence. Then I informed the residence assistants. Then they captured my details, and then I was told, okay, you can now move in. Same day, I headed back to Chesterville. I literally packed everything that day. I packed everything. I called the landlord and I told the landlord, hey, I'm moving out. I found a space at student residence. I found a space at student residence, and he was angry because this was not the first time that a tenant was moving out so quickly. And I didn't even want my deposit back. I was like, it's okay, you can keep the deposit. I didn't want my deposit back. He was angry because I think he also saw that he was losing business, and I'm sure he couldn't figure out what was happening. I decided, I'm gonna pack my things. I'm gonna pack my 2-plate stove, my bathing basin, basically dish. In IsiZulu it's called dish. In English it's called a bathing basin. I literally packed all of that. Then in the morning I took that to the village, back to my hometown in the village. Then I came back to Durban, and then I moved into student residence. And that's when I finally had peace, because I was now staying with other individuals that were students and that were not practicing the muti, the herbs, the voodoo. And that's when I also got to focus more on my studies, and that's when I also got to pass most of my modules, because I wasn't passing that well. In my opinion, I wasn't passing that well. I mean, I could have done better. For me, better is 80%. Well is 70%. Yes, I'm that type. I'm an overachiever. Yeah. And that's also when I got to have a life as well. That's when I also got to experience being a university student once I started staying at student residences. That's when I also started to form more friendships and experience being in a relationship, and experience being in a situationship, and also experience being in a no strings attached situation. That's when I started to experience all of these things, when I started being at student residence. And just to end off this video, what I would like to just tell parents is this: be involved in your child's life when it comes to them searching for residence or searching for a place to stay. And also just listen to your child. Don't hear what your child is saying. Listen to what your child is saying, so that when your child tells you that they are experiencing abuse where they are staying, you can assist them in finding a new place to stay. And yeah, that's all for this video. I will see you in my next upload. Please do like, share, and subscribe. And most importantly, please do comment in the comment section. I hope you will enjoy the story time. Bye.